I want you to do something. Walk into a bookstore right now, or just scroll through Amazon for 5 minutes. Pick 5 random bestsellers, not the classics, not the great indie stuff hiding on the back shelves. The new releases, big 5 publishers. Now look at the covers. Neon gradient background, flat vector illustrations, big friendly sand adjacent fonts. 2 cartoon people standing slightly apart like they're about to argue or fall in love. Maybe add some sparkly effects. Maybe add some actual stars. And if you swap the titles around, you honestly wouldn't notice. Because I'm going to be blunt about this, I think we're living through this weird creative age, and I want to know where I heard this: the Canva aesthetic epidemic. A moment in publishing where algorithmic efficiently has quietly replaced artistic identity. But a lot of that's on the artist, but we'll get to that as well. Not just the marketing people. Welcome to this episode. Get involved in the conversation. We have a lot of chats here, comments, share this video, tell me what you think, and check out all the extra stuff if you really want to get involved in the conversation. Let's be real about publishing history. Book covers followed trends. That's normal. But some were a bit weird. Publishers hired illustrators, photographers, painters, designers who had very specific design language even if they were working within a brief. Look at the older covers from the 70s, 80s and 90s. Fantasy was often chaotic, big, bold, airbrushed, oil painted, oil pastels. Thrillers looked slightly uncomfortable, gritty, dark. Literary fiction often looked more abstract or strange. You could walk past a shelf and instantly feel that each book came from a different creative mind. Now everything is starting to look the same, like it was made within the same free Canva templates. And let's be real, if you go on book cover artists' Tumblrs or Instagram feeds or wherever they're posting their stuff, a lot of people have exactly the same design language. And I don't blame them for going where the money is, but still, there is a lot of artists who are fundamentally interchangeable with each other. And I don't think that's me being nostalgic. I think there's actually no, I know there's a system behind it because I went on a deep dive. I've been talking to people within publishing, marketing departments, and all of these really cool people. So let's go. Modern book covers are no longer designed just for the bookshelf. They're designed for thumbnails. Tiny ones. On Goodreads, on Amazon, and increasingly on short feed video like TikTok and Instagram. When a cover performs really well in that environment, publishers get immediate feedback through the data that we provide. Higher click-through rates, higher engagement, higher wish list ads. So the system learns something. People click this style, which means the next marketing meeting sounds something like this. Let's make something that feels similar, not identical, just similar enough to trigger the same click behavior. And over time that creates a feedback loop. Successful cover. Copy, visual style. Algorithm reinforces it. Industry adopts it. Visual diversity collapses, and once that loop starts, anything that looks remotely, even slightly different, becomes really risky. Now, I'm going to be real. I'm picking on Canva. I use Canva. Canva is great. I've used it to help make this video. But it's not the villain, really. Programs like Canva are amazing. Anyone can create something. You can do nice photo montages, your own book covers, album artwork, stream artwork, social media posts. 15 years ago, you needed Photoshop skills or a professional designer to make something remotely decent. Now, all those skills I learnt in college are borderline obsolete. Now, anyone, let's be real. Whether you're traditionally published, marketing interns, indie publishing, you can literally make a cover in minutes. And I think that's powerful. But I think this accessibility has a strange side effect. when millions of people have access to the same templates, the same clip art, the same assets, design begins to converge. And it's not because people lack creativity, I genuinely believe that, but because templates guide decisions, font combinations, color palettes, layout structure. You stay inside a framework, and the final product rarely escapes it. And you can see that. There's another change that happened behind the scenes. Publishers used to hire more independent artists to create covers. And more of that work is happening internally. So you have a marketing team, brand departments, data analysts, and they will either look for artists or find someone on the team that can do it. Which means the primary question has changed. It used to be, what visual language represents this story? Now the question is, what will perform well on certain websites or in social media? And those are massively different priorities, because art tries to interpret the story, marketing tries to sell you the vibe. Now, this is where things in the conversations that I had with people get really interesting and a bit weird. Modern covers aren't always trying to communicate the content of the book. They're trying to signal a genre mood. Romance, pastel colours. Thrillers, bold, minimal typography. Although I do love some bold, minimal typography, let's be real. Romance, fantasy romance, romantasy, whatever. Glowing gradient plus decorative symbols. That's literally the design brief. It's not storytelling, it's what some people in the industry call vibe baiting. It's the visual equivalent of a playlist cover. And when every book signals its genre using the exact same visual shorthand, everything starts to blur together. Literary fiction has begun to resemble contemporary romance more and more. Thrillers, worryingly, look more like self-help books, which I find weird. We seem to be losing this design language. And it hits a point where we stop recognizing individual books, we recognize a format. I think one of the big changes in this, and I think one of the things we've lost, is texture. And let me explain. In the loss of design language, and I'm trying to make this video more accessible in terms of talking about design language, because not everyone is an artist. But let's look at older book covers. Painted artwork, hand-drawn illustrations, physical photography, collage, experimental typography. Again, I'm a typography nerd, so hi. You could almost feel the cover just by looking at it. Modern covers tend to fall into flat vector shapes, clean gradients, perfect symmetry. It's design optimized for screen clarity, not emotional texture or visual diversity. Which makes sense if your primary storefront is a 120 pixel thumbnail. But something gets lost in that. The grit disappears. The imperfections disappear. The human fingerprint disappears. Which is probably why more cover artists are getting accused of using AI when they're not using it, by the way, but when the visual language is kind of just gone. You need some imperfections. You need a human fingerprint. And here's a funny part. We are currently living through what I think is probably the second explosion of bookish online culture. We had BookTube before, and now we have TikTok and Instagram. People are obsessing over physically beautiful books. Sprayed edges, special editions, aesthetic bookshelves. Books have become visual lifestyle objects again. But at the exact same time, the actual cover designs have become more generic than ever. So we have this weird contradiction. Readers want books that look special, that look beautiful. There's nothing wrong with that, by the way. Publishers keep releasing books that look interchangeable. And that's the key point. The danger here isn't that book covers are ugly. Some of them are actually really nice. The danger is a visual monoculture, where every cover begins to look the same. Something subtle happens in the background. And this is a bit of psychology. Discovery becomes harder. Um, Memorability disappears. And books stop feeling like individual creative works and start feeling like a product in a category. Like shampoo bottles. You know what sells, we're using that shape, it's functional. Publishers didn't wake up one day and decide to erase artistic identity. It happened slowly. Algorithms rewarded certain designs, marketing teams followed data, templates simplified production, and eventually the industry drifted towards maximum predictability. This kind of Canva aesthetic epidemic isn't really about Canva. It's about creative industry that's kind of optimized itself for click-through rates instead of visual storytelling. And the real question isn't whether the covers work, clearly they do. The real question is, what kind of stories disappear when the only covers allowed to exist are the ones the algorithm already understands?